Hey guys, tonight on California Haunts Radio, medium Caren and Clarke joins me to talk about the Titanic. And if there's time left over, we're going to do some readings on the ship and the waters that surround it. Be right back. Grab your popcorn and snacks, find a comfy spot, take a seat or lie down, and let me transport you to a place of fantasy, ghost stories, ancient legends, odd creatures, alien encounters, and other magical topics. You may even decide to join the conversation. From faraway lands to your own backyard, with a small dash of pixie dust, turn out the lights and open your minds. The journey is about to begin. Hey, how's everybody doing today? I hope you said good. I kind of heard you say good, kind of from afar, right? I'm an empath. I can feel these things. Good evening. My name is Charlotte. I'm going to be your host for the next hour. Hang on while I push my little buttons. Okay. Whoa, I'm sorry. I should have been down here. Is that the right one? Yeah, show. Oh, how weird. Oh, okay. Very good. See, there's always something that goes wrong. Murphy's Law. After last night... And what happened last night, which I still don't know to this day, what happened last night with Facebook not airing the show. But hopefully I can get that rectified by next Friday. Hello, how we doing? Good evening, Pure Love Ascension. Welcome to the show. Of course, you guys know who I am. You know who I am. But anyway, I'm also the owner of the California Haunts Paranormal Investigation Team who needs some WD-40 for my chair. We're 45 people up and down the state of California, which means if you have a paranormal need, we can help you out. It might take us a while to get there, but we will get there within a couple of days. For everybody watching on Facebook tonight, if you haven't done so already, please hit that follow button because we're always looking for followers. YouTube, same thing. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube page, please feel free to do so. It doesn't cost to do that. And if you're over on TikTok and you're coming to visit and you haven't joined me on TikTok yet, be sure to do that for those of you, right? Okay. We are under California Haunts TikTok or California Haunts Radio on YouTube. We are California Haunts Radio, and Sacramento Seers on Facebook. And I'm also on Instagram under Ghosty Gal. So I kind of put it together. Under Ghosty Gal. And we're on Twitter under California Haunts, and I believe we're at Twitch under Cal Haunts, I think, or some variation of that. Also, on YouTube, if you haven't done so yet, please hit that. Like I said, hit the subscribe button. It doesn't cost much. Now, during the show, I do have somebody in my chat room. That's cool. If you like the show, share it with some people. Like maybe you have family that are cooking right now. It's the holidays, right? So everybody's getting together and all that good stuff. Be sure to share the show because we're just trying to get the word out about the show. So if you do that for me, I'd appreciate it. Also, throw some thumbs up. Throw some happy faces. So, throw some real good vibes here. Because when you do that and you participate in the chat room, Facebook and YouTube see that, and the computer sees that. It pushes us out to more people. So that helps us a lot because that's what we're going for, Just like over at YouTube, I'm reading. Okay. Just so I can see you pure attention. Over at YouTube, we do have over 800 videos sitting there, and they're all of this show. Different topics. I don't cover the same topic every night. I'm a forward journalist, and I don't like to be stuck copying or doing copying. Doing just one type of show. I like to vary what I do. So that's why you're going to see stuff about Titanic. You're going to see stuff about murders, wife beatings, all kinds of stuff. All stuff. So if you look over there at YouTube, I have started to put all the videos under categories. And they're going to be categorized into folders. So it's going to be a lot easier for you to find stuff. Trust me, before I did that, I used to go in there and get a headache. And that was me looking through it, right? Imagine what it's like for you to look through it. Okay, that all being said, tonight's show is interesting. Caren and I are big fans, Caren and I are big fans of the Titanic and the story of the Titanic and what actually happened and all that good stuff. Well, thank you, Pure Love Ascension. I appreciate it. It's good to have you for the book readings. We've got a really good one going on Wednesdays. I'm sorry you guys on Facebook didn't get to hear it because that is a really good book, and I can't wait till next Wednesday to continue with it. So thank you. Back to Titanic. I always had a fascination with big ships. My father had a lot of stories about the Queen Mary when I was growing up, and he took me to see the Queen Mary several times. And I remember walking the halls there. And then after I was an adult, I actually went on vacation to I was in that Los Angeles area, went to the Queen Mary a couple of times as an adult, and experienced some of the ghostly activity on there. And Queen Mary's beautiful. What's left of it is beautiful because they've gutted a lot out of it. But tonight we're talking about the Titanic, and we're going to talk about the Queen Mary a little later too, because we're going to do a size comparison and give you guys an idea of the size of how big Titanic was, because Titanic. So Karen Clarke is going to join me. She's done some research on Titanic, and she's going to tell stories about the ship, which is great. And I hope it's entertaining for everybody tonight. Some stories are nicer than others, and it's just the way it is because of the way the ship ended, the eventual way the ship ended. All right, so let me bring Karen in, and away we go. Let me push this other button, and away we go. I'm going to have great blooper reels, you guys. Okay. Hello, Karen.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. I had a nap.
Oh, my.
I had a nap in a Jolly Rancher. So I'm good to rock.
You got to put that picture back a little bit.
Yeah, I'll have to fix it.
Oh, that's horrid.
You look marvelous, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Anyways, on with the show.
On with the show. So for the people that don't know you, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I'm a crazy broad. I started actually with your team about 17 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was with a former team before then. Oh, that's my little chihuahua. He gets jealous when I talk.
Oh, how funny, because I went to grab my Santa cup and it made the noise at the same time, so I thought I did it. So it's good to know.
Okay. Anyways, oh, I just lost my notes here. Anyways, yeah, I had the gift since I was a little girl. And I would float out of my body and visit different places, and
wow,
it really scared me when I was young. And it wasn't until I was older in my adulthood that I just kept having one experience after another, seeing things and people and getting messages from people on the other side and feeling presence. And then I realized, like, I would be in my car driving and I could hear a song come in before it would come in. And it was like I was hyper vigilant, and I could actually I could hear the song go through my mind seconds before it would play, and then it would come on.
Nice.
I mean, just, that's just one example.
Right. I went through something similar.
Over time, I've just honed in on. Yeah?
Bad host. I interrupted. No, go ahead.
I would just hone in on my skills and just keep going, and it just became like routine for me to have all these experiences, and it scared me. And of course, you don't want to tell anybody because people think you're crazy.
Right.
And then I saw a psychologist and told the psychologist, and he said, "You're not crazy. You're just having high intuition." I actually had a mental evaluation by a psychiatrist and a psychologist, and he said, "You're not crazy. This is just what happens. when
Mm-hmm.
people who are highly sensitive, and it gets to the point where I have to learn how to shut it down because I can hear people thinking about me half a world away.
Wow.
I know people are thinking about me um from beyond,
Mm-hmm.
from the past, present, and future. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And I could tell you,
And
just real quick, just from
I'm very sensitive, and I'm very sensitive what people think of me,
uh-huh.
and I've always felt judged in my life. So it's something that I've really had to work on is not to be so hard on myself and just accept it and go with the flow and use it for the
Mm-hmm.
good of humanity, for the good of everybody, for the good of
Mm-hmm.
me.
Absolutely. Growing up, I saw stuff in my house, and everybody thought it was my imagination. But then after I got with the first ghost team, that I was working with, and I started going to meetings. When you talk about the car and the radio, I had weird things going on, like
Cool.
flashlights would turn on by themselves in the car when I was driving home for no reason, or like when I went to work, and I would be talking to somebody at the office I was working at, and I could hear what they were going to say before they said it.
Yeah. Oh, that's
So,
better.
yeah. Okay, we'll leave it at that if that makes you happy. We'll just do that.
Yeah. That's a
I kind
little
of like it.
better.
I kind of liked it in your face. It was cool.
Oh.
So tonight, we're going to be talking
Yeah,
about
so do you re
Titanic. Go ahead.
Mhm. I remember when it came out, and
Hmm.
Michael and I saw it with my family, and I was at the edge of my seat.
Hmm.
And every time I hear the song by Celine Dion, I just cry and well up. I mean,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, it just gets me right in the kishkas. It just it gets you too, huh, baby?
Every time I see anything in reference to that ship, that song is in my head.
Yeah.
I think it's like that for a lot of people because that song was just so haunting.
Well, what? I'm
He
so
thinks so too.
sorry. My little chihuahua is having a fit because I'm
He thinks
giving
so too,
the
right?
computer attention. Come here.
He think, yeah, he thinks so
Oh.
too. He wants
Okay,
to be
so
a radio star. Go ahead.
yeah. So I'll just kind of go over the notes
Yeah, Karen's got notes. I've
about
got
the
some really
history
cool
of the
notes about it.
Titanic.
Talk about it. Yeah.
The Titanic launched on May 31st, 1911, and set sail on its maiden voyage from Southampton, England, on April 10th, 1912, with 2,240 passengers and crew on board. On April 15th, 1912, after striking an iceberg, the Titanic broke apart and sank to the bottom of the ocean. And then taking in it it took more than 1,500 lives, passenger and crew. And there's something about the captain, I can't remember his name, but it was the captain's last voyage.
Yeah. Yes.
It was everybody's last voyage.
So not to be everybody's last voyage.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. One thing I want to add in with this, and this is something I did some research on, because like I said, I am a ship nut like that. I mean, I spent a lot of time aboard the Queen Mary. I was curious because they say the Titanic was so big, and it was for its day and time. For the time it was built, it was the biggest ship. But later on, when it's hard for us, even with the movie, right? When you look at the movie, you see the people are so tiny. It's kind of hard to gauge the size of it. So I did some research, and I found out that the Queen Mary that they keep at Long Beach, if anybody's ever been there, to give you an idea of the sizes, the Queen Mary is 15% longer than the Titanic and 28% wider.
Wow. And I have been on the Queen Mary.
Yeah, so that gives you an idea. to the Titanic because at
That's
the
an
time
incredible vessel.
both ships at the time at their time of service were the biggest ships in the world. Cruise ships. So that gives you an idea of if you've ever seen the Queen Mary and been there in person, how large the Titanic really was. I mean, 15% isn't that much. As
Not at
far as being
all.
longer. So the Titanic was almost as long as the Queen Mary, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah, and the Queen Mary, I've been on the Queen Mary. It is huge.
Yes. So
and
you
yet
can
when you
imagine.
see it on the ocean, it looks tiny.
Yeah. But you can imagine the size. Because I know, with movies and all that, it's really hard to tell the size.
Yeah.
You can see the ship is huge, but you don't really have a starting point to see the actual sizing. But when you think about seeing the Queen Mary, you can get a good idea of just how big the Titanic was.
And now the Titanic is, how they discovered it is fascinating. I've seen it on one of those History or Discovery channels, how they discovered it.
Yeah. Guys, when I lean over, I'm reading your notes. I'm blind as a bat, so I have to enlarge them to read your notes over there. All right, continue.
So, anyways, just a few other tidbits. It was 111 years ago the Titanic sank into the depths of the Atlantic Ocean.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, tragedy struck during the British luxury passengers liner maiden voyage. Mm-hmm. And it was found actually in Newfoundland, Canada. That's where the wreckage was found.
Mm-hmm.
And then, according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration,
mm-hmm.
NOAA, the Titanic was near Newfoundland, Canada, about 400 miles off the coast when it tragically sank. And now, 111 years later, the wreckage remains about 350 miles from Newfoundland. And this was documented June 22nd on 2023. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it was actually discovered after 1 a.m. on September 1st, 1985, under more than 12,400 feet of water. Wow. It was one of the Titanic's boilers that was identified, confirming the wreck had been found. Mm-hmm. And then the video filming from Argo, it was used by 35 millimeter filming from Angus. Yeah. It was conducted throughout the remaining 4 days of the voyage. So that's how it was discovered.
I love watching those things and seeing it. It is so it's like a sobering feeling to see those ROVs, under the water. Look at Titanic, and one of the stuff I've seen, and this is like throwing this out there, stick to the wall. The conditions that night, there was no moon, absolutely no moon, but there was like some kind of visual thing that I heard on one of the TV shows where they wouldn't see the Titanic clearly, or they would think it was closer than it was, or something along that line, which is why they think that they didn't see the iceberg until last minute, even though it was dark.
That's right.
There was some kind of weird visual thing going on with the ocean and the weather conditions at the time when it impacted.
That's right. They hit an iceberg.
Yeah.
And then, of course, mayhem set in, and the rest is history, or was history. And there were around 700 survivors.
Yes.
One of the survivors, named Prentice, passed away in 1982 at the age of 93. I don't know if they were in the movie or not.
Probably not. Well, they might have been. I mean, under different names in the movie or whatever.
Right.
They might have been.
But this Prentice survived by swimming to a nearby lifeboat, as the survivors did.
Right.
And he recalled that the Titanic seemed to stop as if you were jamming your brakes on a car.
Huh.
I mean, can you imagine?
Very interesting. That's a lot of ship to stop.
Oh, yeah. Water. The force of that.
Yes.
I'm sure a lot of them the survivors had hearing loss,
Oh,
not to
absolutely.
mention post-traumatic stress syndrome.
Well,
You
I
know,
could tell you. I mean, I could tell you from experience because for years my family had a cabin cruiser, and to stop a boat when it's in when it's in a full momentum, like they were pretty much, running full speed, you're going to go no. Even if you hit the brakes, you're still going to lurch forward until that speed momentum stops.
right. That's so true.
Yeah.
There is a myth that I thought was really interesting. You know, people think that the Titanic victims and survivors, victims were ate by sharks. But
Hmm.
that's not true. According to the historical sources,
Right.
there were no infested waters. There were no sharks. It was mainly hypothermia.
Yeah.
Hypothermia.
And maybe the
Not
water
to
was too
kill them, of
cold.
course.
Yeah, maybe the water was too cold too.
Oh,
For the sharks,
definitely.
because sharks, certain sharks. I'm not saying all of them. Certain sharks tend to like warmer waters, which is why the great whites, which I think is a fascinating story too, that I would love to do a story on, talk to somebody about. The great whites migrate from California to Hawaii every year
Yeah.
to the warmer waters.
It was actually the in Indianapolis
Yes,
that
yes,
had the victims that were eaten up by the sharks. That
yes,
was
yes.
a big scene in Jaws too, where
Yeah,
they
that was
talked
huge.
about it.
Right, right. The
Richard
USS Indianapolis.
Dreyfuss talks about it. That one scene.
But to imagine, the fact that, and again, getting back to that whole weather thing, they had seen I think, I don't know if it was the California USS California that had seen the Titanic, or vice versa, but they had seen a ship on the horizon that they thought was within range, but the ship didn't see them
Right.
because of the curvature of the Earth and whatever was going on with the weather conditions that night.
Right.
You know, and there's, like I said, there was no moon, so when the lights finally went out in the Titanic, it was pitch black out there.
Can you imagine the horror? Wow.
And I got a little trivia for everybody too that I'm going to add in. Being a ghost hunter and going to different places. Oh, I'm reading Pure Love Ascension here. They said those who were inebriated, yes, the people that had alcohol in their system, absolutely, absolutely.
Oh,
I've heard
I can
stories
only
about people who,
imagine.
yeah, how they survived. The ones that had alcohol, they're the ones that survived because the alcohol kept them warm and kept them calm.
Interesting. I could
Yeah.
see that.
In fact, when my mother and I watched the movie, that's what she said. She said, "Oh, look, he's drunk. He's going to make it."
Okay.
He's drinking
That,
booze.
that's kind of comparable to when somebody's in an accident
Hmm.
and when they're not tense,
Yeah.
they just kind of roll with it and they survive more than somebody that's really tense.
Yes. Now I have some trivia also to add to this, and you might have noticed this. Okay, the Murphy's Hotel, Murphy's, California, where we've done quite a few investigations. You go to the old part of the hotel, and if you look at the doors, they have the names of the people that have stayed at the hotel. And when you look at the names, the majority of them were on the Titanic. John
Wow.
Jacob Astor. There were people. Honest to God, if you look at those doors, you'll recognize the names right away. That's
Wow, I didn't
probably
know
probably
that.
before they took the ship. Before they took that trip, they stayed at the Murphy's Hotel. Yeah, it's
Because it
interesting.
left from England, right? And it went to
Right.
New York.
Yeah, but they had stayed at the Murphy. Some of those people that died aboard that ship had stayed at the Murphy's Hotel.
Wow. That is fascinating.
I always thought it was too. Every time we stayed there.
Now, there were some notable people aboard.
Yes, go for it.
Okay. There was an industrial magnate millionaire named Benjamin Guggenheim, and he was Macy's department store owner and former member of the United States House of Representatives. Eisdor Strauss and his wife Ida.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was George Dinnick, founder and president of Youngstown Sheet and Tube Company, and he was a millionaire streetcar magnate. And of course, they had all different classes. If you remember the movie, people who have seen the movie, first class, second class, third class.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing's changed, right?
Right.
We still have
Right.
all the classes, the haves and haves not. But also, this is kind of fun for me to talk about because I think I had some long lost relatives on this voyage.
Mm-hmm.
There was a man named Charles Valentine Clarke with the E, Clarke, that's my maiden name, who was a second class passenger traveling across the Atlantic Ocean aboard the maiden voyage of Titanic, and his wife, Ada Maria Clarke.
Very interesting.
Yeah, they were they were second class passengers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what happened to them. I don't know what happened. I
Right. Right.
couldn't
Right.
find any information what happened to them, if they made it or not. But I
Mm-hmm.
do know they were passengers. But boy, I'll tell you, when I saw the Titanic exposition at the Luxor Hotel in Las Vegas years ago, they had a lot of artifacts.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Now that.
remember
Yeah.
feeling
Okay.
the
I was gonna say,
pain
what
of
did you feel?
the boat. And boy, could you feel that energy radiate off the boat, and then seeing all the baby shoes and the old glasses and the purses and the jewelry. And of course, the very famous Hope Diamond, right?
Mm-hmm.
That rose through in the ocean.
Right. Now that we discussed that, okay, now that you've said that, I do have some research um, about the ghosts that haunt those expeditions, those exhibitions. So let's read a little bit about that off. I got an article here. Let's see, where am I at? There am I at. So this is going to be the Titanic Artifact Exhibition at the Luxor Hotel and Casino. And this is from Ranker.com. And they say a lady in black appears on the grand staircase. And they say that
Right,
employees
that
and guests alike.
beautiful staircase that goes up where
Right.
Leonardo DiCaprio, his
Right.
character, stands right there, and he holds his arm out to Rose with her
Yes.
beautiful glove, and yeah.
And so the stories go that employees and guests alike have seen this mysterious woman who wears a black period dress with a white collar and her hair in a bun. As a photographer prepped for the opening of the exhibition, he spotted the woman casually walking down the grand staircase. He was startled as he hadn't seen anyone earlier, and the staircase was roped off. He assumed that she was part of the exhibit and asked if she'd like him to photograph her. She
Wow.
ignored him. He went back to setting up, but suddenly she was directly behind him. Again, he offered a photograph, and this time she didn't just ignore him; she vanished.
Wow. When was this? When did this happen?
I don't know. In fact, I'm looking. This is just stuff on Ranker.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of those, people that do I do a little bit of psychometry where you
Uh huh.
hold objects and you can feel. And I'm sure there's a lot of energy left in
Oh,
those
absolutely,
artifacts and
absolutely.
antiquities.
So this is 12 spine-tingling ghost stories of the Titanic by Laura Radford. It was written in 2021. So there's that one, and then you got the ghosts take portraits off the walls. The exhibition at the Luxor includes a portrait of J. Bruce Ismay, one of the Titanic's builders. He apparently fled the sinking ship, leaving women and children behind. We know that. Witnesses on the lifeboats claim he kept his back to the ship as it descended. and allegedly he was the one insisting the ship speed up after receiving those ice warnings. Perhaps it's not surprising that the ghost of the Titanic seemed to dislike him. One early morning, as the crew came to open the exhibit, they found portraits of Ismay on the floor. The manager watched the surveillance video for the night and was stunned to see the picture begin shaking before coming off the wall and apparently falling on its own accord. That's crazy, huh?
Wow.
Wow. Let's see. Now, let's see. This one is a ghostly tour took place on the Winter Haven, SS Winter Haven. What if you saw a ghost without even realizing it? In the case of Second Officer Leonard Bishop, this happened in, Bishop of the SS Winter Haven. This happened in 1977. And he gave a tour of the ship, and a man who assumed was, I don't know what that has to do with Titanic. Maybe he was on the Titanic. The man he assumed was a passenger. The British man was very soft-spoken and extremely. Let me take this down a little bit. Okay. Oh, it just jumped. Look at that. Don't you love it when stuff does that? Computers, computers. Okay. Okay, where is it? Sorry, guys. Okay, yeah. So it says the British man was soft-spoken and was interested in every detail of the vessel, almost unusually so. Bishop found that the man to be strange, no unpleasant, just odd. It wasn't until a few years after seeing the photo of Titanic Captain Edward Smith, here's the link, that Bishop realized the situation, that the man he had been touring the boat with and gave him a tour of the boat was in fact Captain Edward Smith. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, that was the captain. That was his last voyage.
Yeah.
He was wasn't he gonna retire?
Yes.
I'm going off memory of the movie. I haven't seen the movie for a while. He was gonna retire, and then that was his last voyage.
Yeah. Wow. Now this particular ghost, I can understand being there. The ghost of the Titanic's lookout watches the promenade deck. So Frederick Fleet, a British sailor, served as the lookout aboard the RMS Titanic. He spotted the deadly iceberg aboard the bridge. Tragically, the warning came too late. The ship was going too fast to avoid a collision. Fleet survived the sinking of the ship, but not his own depression. After his wife's passing just after Christmas of 1964, he was evicted by his brother-in-law and hung himself in the garden. Wow. His grave went unmarked until the Titanic Historical Society erected a headstone for him in 1993. It appears his spirit's not quite at rest, however. Witnesses have claimed to see him keeping watch over the Las Vegas exhibit's promenade deck, perhaps driven by his guilt to keep watch even in the afterlife. I can understand that.
Oh, yeah.
This happens quite frequently at different museums. There's also Los Angeles. I'm going to add this. There's a wax museum that's not the Madame Tussauds Museum. And in this museum, it used to be called the Hollywood Wax Museum. And there's supposed to be an angry spirit in this museum that will pinch people and stuff when they go through to see the wax figures. I mean, wax figures are creepy enough, but that, get pinched and prodded.
Oh, they scare me. I've been in that museum. It's creepy.
So, I mean, that had to do with the Titanic. I'm just pointing this out because the next section of the ghosts of the Titanic are museum staffers are poked and prodded by unseen hands. So, according to the staff and visitors, the Titanic, of the exhibition, in the Luxor, it's all Las Vegas. Wow. Eerie sounds, uneasy feelings, and actual sightings of ghostly specters have all been reported. It also seems that to attract another bit of attention from those spirits in that they like to poke at staffer and prod them as they're walking through. And then another one reports hearing an orchestra play.
Uh-huh. Now, I heard something about the clock. I don't know if this is true or not. I didn't research this. Yeah. But do you remember that part of the movie where one of the captains, he sets the clock?
You're right.
Right at the time that the ship goes down?
Right.
That part is so profound to me.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if there's a connection with time and space, with the time he said when the ship went down
Right.
is like when the spirits come in. Do they come in at that same time that the
Yeah,
ship, you know what I mean?
yeah, I don't know. That would be something to look at because that would make a
Yeah.
lot of sense, especially with the kind of work we do. Now, ghost hunters were allowed into the exhibition at one time, and this is at the Georgia Aquarium. The Georgia Aquarium also houses potentially haunted artifacts from Titanic. The employees have claimed to see shadows, hear voices, and even be touched by the spirits. The paranormal activity is so intense that Sci-Fi Channel's Ghost Hunters came to investigate. It's
Wow.
on TV
It should have been our team.
somewhere. They reportedly captured a recording of a voice saying, "No, please wait," in the iceberg room. The team also said they got readings of several anomalous cold spots that witnessed a shadowy figure. After reviewing their findings, they concluded that the Titanic exhibit in Georgia Aquarium is in fact haunted. Someday I'll learn to read. Now, it's not only like set up for the U.S. to have all these hauntings. There's also a Titanic, obviously, a museum in Belfast, where it was built.
In
And
Ireland.
from what this says is a comforting spirit haunts the Titanic Belfast Museum. So, as they like to say in Ireland, the Titanic was built by the Irish, sunk by the English. The Titanic Belfast Museum in Ireland seems to have a ghostly presence of its own. In 2009, a woman was touring the museum and listened to the final distress call, of the RMS Titanic. She described the events that followed in a letter that hosts of the podcast of Real Ghost Stories online. Oh, cool. Okay. She claimed that while hearing the original Morse code and seeing the words of the RMS Titanic's distress call, she got very emotional.
Oh gosh, I can only
Very
imagine.
overwhelmingly emotional. Her heart was pounding. Yeah, her heart was pounding as she left and felt her heart was pounding as she felt anxious and heartbroken as if she was the radio controller herself. So shaken up and sick to her stomach, she began crying, walking away to get some air. She felt a hand on her shoulder and a male voice softly say, "It's okay." She assumed it was her friend and reached out to brush his hand, but realized no one was there. So the question here is, was it the spirit of the radio controller, Jack Phillips? And was he reassuring her that he was at peace with what happened? Interesting.
And they caught a lot of this on the EVPs.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff caught. There's a lot of, and here's another one. Captain Smith haunts his former home in England. So according to Louise and Neil Borner, owners of the former home of Titanic Captain John Smith, the shipmaster lingers in his house. The couple have spent the last decade renting the 19th century Victorian, and their tenants have reported feeling icy chills passing through them. They also hear strange noises and even see full-blooded apparitions of the captain. The
Wow.
property has also suffered a flood in the kitchen and unusually cold gusts in the dining room. According to Mr. Bonner, some years ago, we had a single chap, British, in there, and he rang up one day convinced he had seen the ghost of the captain. He was in bed when he saw him drift across the room. Wow.
Gosh.
And next one is spirit orbs hover over the Titanic's resting place. So people aboard ships passing the site where the RMS Titanic went down have reported mysterious balls of light, which are believed to be the spirit orbs, hovering over the area.
Yeah.
On more than one occasion, submarines traveling these depths have received unusual radio interference. Odd noises and SOS calls with no origins crackle through the communication equipment. That's interesting because if we think about the situation that just happened, with that sub, that's that ticking sound or that pounding sound that the airplanes picked up really, to me, sounded like someone trying to say they were there. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Yeah,
Right.
that's what it seemed like to me. So maybe after reading that, maybe it makes a little more sense what they were hearing.
Yeah, kind of put the pieces of the puzzle together.
Right. Here's an exhibit visitor is touched from beyond the grave. While visiting family in Missouri, because there's one in Missouri, a teenager went to the traveling Titanic exhibit and had a brush with the paranormal. She says, we were walking through a hallway to get to the artifacts, and I was behind everyone. I suddenly felt a soft tug at the back of my t shirt. I turned to see who the culprit was, but the hallway was absolutely empty. I quickly faced forward to catch a potential trickster, but no one was sneaking away, and everyone in front of me was ahead. Whoa. Okay. And that's the end of it. So that's a little insight into some of the ghosts from the Titanic.
I bet you that they're you think about it,
Mm-hmm.
you you would hope that most of the people crossed over
Right.
into the godly dimension where they're supposed to go.
Right.
But then again, I'm sure there are some spirits that were stuck. Maybe it was the trauma
Mm-hmm.
and they're reliving it over and over and over.
And that's really sad. It's sad that they're
Yeah,
stuck.
it
I
is.
mean, how many times have we been out on an investigation where we've encountered these lost souls like this?
Right,
That are stuck with that trauma. And
right,
it's just sad because it happens so quickly. They don't, a lot of people did it. Well, with that one, I forgot. I was thinking about the sub, but they happen so quickly. But like in the case of the Titanic, these people knew what was going to happen. These people knew the water was going to, or these gentlemen that died, right? They
right,
knew what was going to happen. They were sitting there, the water was coming in, and dang well it's going to keep coming in and filling up and filling up and filling up. And you can't do anything about it. You just have to
right.
sit there and watch it.
That
And
panic and
yeah,
that fear,
yeah, that fear.
you
Even
know.
the people, even the people that made themselves calm to face it. I mean, when you're going to feel it, it's all fine and dandy when the water's filling up. But when it gets to your chin, then you hit the panic and fear
Oh, definitely. And
because you know that water's coming in.
the part where they had the musicians
Right,
play at the very end, I that just made me cry because those musicians knew they were going to perish, and
right,
yet they wanted to give solace to the people they knew were probably their last hours
right,
or
right,
last few minutes, and
right,
they played the music to try to give comfort to the
right.
victims,
Right.
the
Teresa says just
survivors.
watch. Yeah. Just, you're just sitting there or laying in bed and you're just watching the water rise.
Yeah,
I can't think of anything more terrifying
and
to
then, of
sit there and face
course, you know, the 3rd class
it. Hmm.
really had it rough, and the iron workers or the coal workers in the bottom of the ship,
Yes.
keeping it going, the steam rollers and all that,
Right.
they didn't have a chance at all. It was the upper class that had a little more of a chance to get out.
Right. Right.
Wow. I like your hat.
Yeah.
That's cute. Sally and
And Jack,
Jack.
season's creepings.
Yeah. It
But it
is
is, it's very tragic. And, not only,
yeah.
it wasn't only the men that died aboard, there were, there were children, there were babies that died.
Oh,
And you can't imagine, that happening. Ugh, ugh,
I know.
it gives you the willies when that happened. And it was unfortunate. The whole thing with the lifeboats and you not having enough lifeboats because when in the company's eyes, they wanted the decks clear so people could enjoy this magnificent ship,
Mm,
figuring that it wasn't going to sink because obviously it had those watertight doors. But the only problem with the watertight doors is that the tops of the doors didn't quite go all the way up.
right.
They didn't fit all the way up in there. And so when Titanic started to nose down or whatever direction it was going, the water kept washing over, and then
The
it was a
ship,
horrible.
like, it showed how it broke in
Yeah,
half. It was
yeah,
like perpendicular. It just snapped, and then one side went up and one side went
yeah,
down. And
yeah.
they're sliding all the way down, trying to hold on to whatever they can. And when they reach the waters, of course, hypothermia sets in. You don't have a long time to live.
No,
You're gonna die. You're gonna perish real fast.
right. Oh yeah, it doesn't take long with water that cold.
And it's actually the survivors
Hmm.
that probably
Hmm.
had that, you know, PTSD, the trauma, what stories they had to tell.
Well, like Teresa says, I see a thing from Teresa saying, you're sitting on the lifeboat, so you're powerless to do anything. All you can
Right.
do is watch the boat go down.
Ooh. And there was, you know, there was no social media, cell phones,
Mm-mm.
telephones.
Nope.
We're talking the early 1900s, right?
Right. So you were
They
just
just
out there.
had
Flare guns.
Morse
That's it.
code.
Morse code and flare guns.
Yeah, that was it.
You know, it's sad. It is sad that that whole weather thing or whatever it was that ended up happening where the California didn't get back until morning. To start picking up survivors, because I think had they been able to be aware of it, or had they paid more attention, they could have got over there right away. If it was one big cluster,
Oh yeah.
one big
Now,
cluster.
did the other team get anything else? Were
That's
they
all like
were there any like class A EVPs that they collected?
just what the ghost hunters got, the TV
Okay.
ghost hunters. But that's all I was able to get so far. There's probably more out there. I would love to get a chance to go out there
Oh right.
and do an investigation out there. It's just it's tragedy. It's pure tragedy. And could it have been avoided? I mean, the ship was in the dark anyway. The icebergs. It's hard to see. I mean, if there's no uh, moon out and there's no light, it's going to be hard to see like icebergs and stuff floating in the water,
Oh yeah.
no matter what. So, I mean, was the ship destined to hit this thing? No matter what, or could it have been avoided? Maybe if they reduced speed, they had time to maneuver. Because the Titanic had, I know this from reading around too. The Titanic had a flaw. I think its rudder was too small for the size of the ship,
Right.
and that was a major issue because they couldn't get the ship turned in time for different things.
Mm-hmm.
So very, very tragic. And I can't imagine the captain and what he went through either. Here he's going into retirement. He's getting ready. This is his last voyage. He wants to do a good show and have that ship come in looking beautiful and stuff. And then he's got
Sure.
people telling him, no, don't worry about reducing speed. We don't need all those lifeboats. Let's just go for it.
Captain Smith, huh?
Yeah, Captain Smith.
Oh,
So I feel for the captain. I really do. As I really don't. I mean, I put blame on the captain for not standing up, to the big wigs, but I also feel for him because there was probably a lot of pressure that they put on him, especially with his man board.
right. That was a really, really touching scene.
Yeah,
Okay, who was it Molly? I think the actress was Catherine Bates,
yeah, yeah,
who played what wasn't her name Molly Brown?
yeah. She played Molly Brown.
That was something when she was in the boat and
Right,
she was trying to direct everybody into her boat.
right.
And then that creepy guy, that actor was really good who played him too. Um who the real rich dude that
Right,
was Rose's fiance.
right, 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 right.
I don't know if that's based on any truth or not, but I'm sure something like that arose.
It could have happened. Yeah, I mean, they were just filling out the story essentially, but that could have happened. Because there is a grand suite on there that's what they based the wealthy suite. Where Rose was staying. There is a ground suite that they found with the I'm going to say the portable sub, but
I love that
RV.
scene where that Leonardo DiCaprio character draws Rose's, the character Rose, her portrait. That was so cool. Do you remember that scene
Yes. Yes.
where she
Oh,
wears the
Pure
whole
Love
thing?
Ascension says it's been said that there. Let me get this up bigger. I'm blind, guys. You got to be with me. It's been said that there was a fire in one of the boilers that was still burning that contributed to the damage that the iceberg caused. That contributed to the damage from the iceberg. They actually left. Oh, what they actually left port with. It's still burning. I heard that too. I heard about that
Yeah,
fire.
right. And it ripped the side of the steel of
Yeah,
the ship.
it weakened the steel. It helped weaken the steel on the ship. And then I also read that some of that steel that they put on was older steel. So now there's a theory out there that it wasn't like brand new steel that they put on there, so the steel might have had some weak points.
Mm-hmm.
When it did go out. But with the size of the thing that they hit, I don't see any going back from that. I don't care what kind of steel you got. I think it's just going to rip the side of the ship apart with that type of size. I mean, I've flown over Newfoundland in a regular airplane. When you look down and you see the icebergs, you got to have a lot of respect for how big they are, because my mother looked out the window, saw these icebergs, and says, "Oh my God, they look like ice cubes."
Oh yeah, from the plane.
And we were like 10,000 feet up or whatever we were, with this airplane. So I mean, you can imagine when you get down closer to them how big they are.
Mm-hmm. Especially because they were around the area of Newfoundland.
Yeah.
Canada.
Yeah. So I always thought that was fascinating. I remember looking out the window and seeing them.
How long was the voyage supposed to be?
I don't know how long I don't remember how long that transatlantic voyage was. I have no idea, to be perfectly honest.
I forgot to look that up.
I think I think it was more than a week.
Okay.
5 days or whatever it was. Yeah, it had to be like anywhere from 5 days to 10 days to cross the Atlantic back then.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was the whole point of Titanic. It was fast, and they were trying to break the speed records, just like the Queen Mary, used to make that trip all the time and broke up the speed records.
Wasn't that fascinating when they discovered all the remains down in the bottom of the ocean?
Yes, but you know what got me? I mean, because all the bodies, stayed there. Because it's a tomb. It's essentially a tomb.
Right.
And when you saw, like you say, when you see the stuff that's down there, like the shoes with no foot.
I know.
And there was someone had their foot in that shoe.
I know.
When that thing went down. Right? So it's really sobering to see that stuff. It's really
and
sobering.
how they restored all the artifacts they brought up.
Right. Yeah, that was fascinating too to see that.
They made them. What got me were the glasses, those little round, early 19th century glasses.
Yeah.
And the little purses that the women carried.
Right.
Pocket purses, and the baby shoes.
Yeah, that got me. That totally got me. Watching, I still watch that stuff every once in a while, just to see what they saw during those dives. And it's just so sad and ugh. It puts being an empath, it doesn't help.
No.
Watching this stuff when I'm looking at it. But yeah, just like with that sub that went down that had the implosion. How quickly that.
Did they find it? What's the story behind that Hope Diamond? Did they ever find that?
I think they did. I don't know.
I wonder if that's in a museum. I was going to research that.
It is. It's under glass and under big guard because.
Oh yeah.
Anytime somebody comes in contact with it, something bad happens. So.
Oh really? Yeah. I was wondering about that.
Yeah, it's got a reputation.
Can you imagine how much that's worth?
That's crazy. But this was all a case of them wanting to make good, them wanting to look good in front of the press and get their get to the docks early and all this, and that's why the orders went out to speed it up, and that's why, again, with the lifeboats, that's why they went with less lifeboats, because they didn't want people, especially the first class, the first class guests, they didn't want them to have to step around lifeboats. So they didn't run as many lifeboats. After all, it was unsinkable, supposedly, right?
Right.
And that's what they thought.
Right.
So, I mean, and then there's stories of people that were supposed to go aboard that ship to make the crossing, and they backed out at the last minute because they had, like feelings that they shouldn't have boarded the ship. So you had that going on too. There were people that didn't, that didn't go. Now there's an original movie about the Titanic, and I happened to see it.
Really?
You can see it on YouTube. A movie made back in the 30s and 40s, or once, you know what I mean, back in the black and white days, and it's almost the same movie as the one James Cameron made.
Wow, it was an actual movie, not a documentary?
No, it was a movie, and I sat here one night and watched it, and it was an interesting movie just to see the different place. I mean, people had different names in this, in there, but it was basically almost the same as the one that James Cameron did, but no Rose, of course, with that story going on.
Right.
But it was an very interesting movie. If you ever want to see it, I forget what it's called. It's RMS Titanic, or something like that. Just look on the dates. You'll know you have it because it was an old movie.
Okay.
But I have watched that one. There's also a documentary about the survivors, and like you say, there's not many of them left. I think there might not be any of them left now. But they actually had a get together, a conference of the survivors. And a guy went in there and did a documentary about it and interviewed some of those survivors firsthand, and they were in their 80s.
Wow.
And that's kind of fascinating to watch too.
Absolutely.
As well.
Definitely. I can only imagine.
I don't like deep water.
No, I don't either.
I'm not a deep water
scared.
person.
After watching Jaws, I cannot go into the water to this day.
And I remember doing the shark cage in Hawaii.
Oh, yeah, that's
jumping
right.
in that, off the boat. But the first thing I thought of when I looked down, it was all fine and dandy when I was looking out, like just looking out at the sharks, like the side view. My dad always told me, because he served in the U.S. Coast Guard. He was lookout on some LST ships, and he always told me that the running joke was when you were out to sea that you were never a mile, you were never a mile away from land, which made like you could be a mile from the bottom of the ocean, right?
Right.
So when I got in this shark cage and I started looking around after the charms started to wear down after a while, and I'm thinking, if this shark cage let go, there's nothing beneath me. It's just straight down.
Breaking news. And this was in Hawaii?
This was in Hawaii. We were off the coast of Hawaii in a shark cage.
You're a thrill seeker.
I loved it. Every second of it. But the thing that got me, where the fear came in is when I looked down at the bottom of the shark cage and there's just nothing there. It's just ocean. And then I thought of what my dad said. You're never more than a mile from land.
But that fascinated me that what should have taken? Oh, Michael just wrote me a note.
How long the voyage was supposed to take. That's how long it was.
Oh, Michael just looked up the information. The voyage should have taken 137 hours.
Okay.
Thank you.
2,400 miles.
Approximately 2,400 miles.
Okay, cool.
Thank you,
Michael.
You're welcome.
Michael's my buddy.
I'm the fact checker.
He's a fact checker.
Not a fact checker. The fact checker.
Not the fact checker. The
fact
checker.
Yes. Michael keeps us in line.
Yeah. He tries.
He
doesn't get very far.
I can't control either one of you. The two of you are out of control.
We
are.
A little bit. Once we start rolling. Yeah, it's true. I admit it. Well, this has been a fascinating show. It's been fun.
Well, it's been, kind of fun. I mean, yes, it's been
I mean, it's sobering, but at the
Interesting.
same time, it's been interesting and fun to do.
Hopeful.
Yeah,
Hopeful.
hopeful.
And interesting about the
If,
ghost.
like, earlier, if we had time, yeah, yeah. But I thought, I thought if we had time that we would have you do some readings, in and around the ship. So maybe the next time we get you on, we'll do that. We'll do a follow-up show to this.
That would be fun.
And we'll do some stuff, and then maybe Michael can fact check for us, or I can fact check and see how well you do.
Right.
Which would be kind of fun.
I'll have to watch the movie again. I've only watched it like 10 times.
Well, watch the one from the 30s or the 40s or whatever year
Yeah.
that was they did. 'Cause
That'll
that was
be interesting.
That's an interesting movie too. It's a different approach. It's a completely
Definitely.
different approach. Okay, guys. Well, that's it. It's 7:30, and I've got to teach a class in 15 minutes, so I need to bug off of here. But I'm glad you guys came in to join us for this discussion. Tomorrow night we've got Medium Nancy Matz coming in, who's going to be talking about depression in children who are affected by their past lives.
Wow.
So
That
we're
will
going to be talking about
great.
she has a
Fascinating stuff.
past life intrusion, but the past lives. So we're going to be doing that tomorrow night. That's 6:30 p.m. Pacific. And stick with us because we're going to, of course, be reading on Sunday from the Scary Christmas Stories books. And then Monday, Tuesday, we're going to have some great guests. And then Wednesday, we're going to be reading from that Christmas history book, which was absolutely fascinating. And again, I apologize for everybody on Facebook that didn't get to watch that. So hopefully I can fix that situation. I think I figured out what went wrong. So hopefully we'll get to do that. Or otherwise, I'll just tape us. In fact, that show is going to be a tape show anyway because I have to be somewhere Wednesday evening for a family thing. So that will be a pre-tape show, so you all will see it. But anyway, I want to thank you all for coming, and thanks for the chats in the chat room. Teresa and Pure and Marisa was in there, and we had Jerry in the chat room.
Everybody.
We had Jerry in the chat room tonight.
Hi, Marisa. Hi, Jerry.
Real active chat room tonight. So, all right. So I will see you guys tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. Pacific. Caren might even join us because Karen's been popping in every once in a while on these shows. That's kind of cool. But have a great evening, guys. So, oh yes, I got my spiel in. Okay. If you like the show, share it with 5 people. If you hated the show, share it with 5 of your enemies. We are equal opportunity here at California Haunts Radio. We're just trying to get the word out. And again, if you haven't subscribed to YouTube, I'm trying to reach that 1,000 mark. I'm trying to reach that 1,000 mark, and we're at 756 right now. So we're inching ever so closer. I'd really appreciate it. All right, well, have a great evening, and I'll see you guys tomorrow, 6:30 p.m. Pacific. Thanks, Caren. It was wonderful.
Thank you, and bon voyage.
It's still screening. Okay.